I guess to get started, just so I know who's in the room, if you could just share, if you have more than one child, you're more than welcome to share whatever grades they're in. But it'd be nice to know like the grade and what school you're at, if it's elementary, so that way I can kind of get a good sense. So let's start over here.
Hi, I have a 9th grader who has amazing executive functioning skills and a 6th grader who really needs help.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm kind of the opposite. My 9th grader is the reason why I'm here.
Okay. Great.
I'm Christine. I have a 5th grader with great executive functioning, a 3rd grader with much needed, and a kindergartner with great executive functioning.
And where's your 3rd grader and kindergartner?
They're all at Sheehan.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. How have we never crossed paths? But this is great. Here we go. Okay.
I'm Christina. I have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And they have different challenges with executive functioning.
Okay. Great.
I'm Megan. I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader.
3rd grader. And where's your 3rd grader at?
Oh, they're at Pine.
Great.
We're also Pine Hill. I have a 5th grader who struggles with executive functioning, a messy 3rd grader who might struggle with executive functioning, and a kindergartner, and we're
You can say my name.
Melanie.
It's
sorry.
okay. Melanie, nice to meet you.
Sorry, that's the lead.
I'm Danielle. I have a kindergartner and a 2nd grader, Pine Hill.
Okay.
I'm here for myself.
Oh, great, great. Okay, that is fine.
For my 2nd
So
grader.
just to start
And
us
myself
off,
as well.
thank you everybody for coming. This is the executive functioning talk. I want to introduce Stephanie Muse and Erin Banty. For those of you that don't know, Stephanie is our BCBA for the district. She's probably worked in every building in this district, elementary, preschool. And then Erin was the star teacher at Sheehan, and now she's the dean of students at the middle school. A wealth of information. So we wanted to do this because we get a lot of questions at SEPAC about, executive functioning, and I couldn't think of 2 better experts than these 2. So thank you so much.
We
for
were a
doing
dream
this.
team for 3 years in
They
the
really
Sheehan school,
are.
so. Yeah.
And then we have people on Zoom, and then here's Tim.
Tim, come on in.
Come on in.
I'm just here stopping by, so for those who don't know me, Tim Pavlov, our superintendent, so happy to be here, and thank you guys for being here and putting this on tonight.
Yeah, not a problem. He's just here
After
to increase
hours,
my
too.
nerves. So.
Yeah, I can leave if you'd like.
No, you're fine.
You gotta come and see what your star team does.
Absolutely.
So.
Yes. Yeah.
But yes, so if you have questions, for those of you that submitted them early, they have them, but you can feel free to ask them. So there we go. Oh, and the session will be recorded, but not the audience, just the
Just us.
speakers, because we have some parents that couldn't be here that wanted the session. So Westwood Media has provided us the equipment. So thank you, Westwood Media.
Yeah. And then we have some friends on a Zoom over here. Hello, people at home. This feels like a talk show. This is this is like our dream.
This is the preview.
Yes, this is great. All right, so we are going to talk about executive functioning tonight. We will go through kind of like an overview of what we're going to talk about. We are going to go through grade by grade, so don't worry. We are going to hit everything and kind of walk through like what the general of each grade level is for the skills that we want to see, and then what we do for kids that have EF challenges. Let's see. So Erin's got her intro slide. I'll let her talk about herself. I could do it for her, but that's okay. I'll let her
I
go.
can talk for me. Hi, I'm Erin. I have a master's degree in education and in ed leadership. I have special ed licenses ranging from pre-K to 12, gen ed 1 through 6, my principal license K through 8, principal and vice principal, an SEI endorsement. I was in Boston Public Schools for 11 years, teaching in a sub-separate therapeutic school, their version of an outplacement, essentially. And then came here to Westwood and taught the STAR program at Sheehan with my buddy here. And now I'm the dean at Thurston. I live in Dover, so right next door. With my husband, 2 girls, 9 and 6. I have a Labradoodle who is now 75 pounds, and he was supposed to be 45, so that was unexpected.
I tried to watch him one time. It did not go well.
Well, our dogs were in love, and it was just, they were the same age, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
I play tennis, I read, I ski, I love to travel, I love food, so that's kind of some stuff about me.
That's Erin.
That's me.
She's
Alright.
she's essentially a child that just understands children really well.
Yes, yes, essentially.
Sure.
Essentially,
It's true.
Tim.
very much so.
So I've been in education for 11 years. I got my master's degree with the Western New England University program for applied behavior analysis. When I got out of my undergrad, which I got at UMass Lowell in psychology, I worked at the New England Center for Children, which is a school for severe autism. So I worked on residential for 4 years. My last year in residential, I actually was in charge of one of the residential houses for kids 18 to 22. So I have a wealth of knowledge, like spanning all the way from like 12 up to 22 at that point. And then year 4, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go down to the babies and I'm gonna hang out with like the pre-K to about like 3rd grade. So I did the day team there for 2 years before I came to public schools. And I've been in Westwood ever since. I currently work at the high school. So I have all the students at the high school that have BCBA on their IEP grids. And then I also work at the Sheehan School, mainly with the STAR program, but I do service some of the other students who require behavioral services at the Sheehan School. And then I also have the transition program here. So in Westwood, we have an 18 to 22 program for students that aren't on that college track, who work on life skills and vocational skills to get ready for post-22, depending on their disabilities. I have been at the preschool. I was at the preschool for 2 years. I do miss those kiddos. I loved them. They're a hoot. And I worked with Caitlin at the preschool, which was great. And then I've also dabbled in Pine Hill occasionally. I've been going over for some behavioral assessments or to help out with certain cases. I live in Quincy with my husband. He's Irish, which is a lot of fun. I go there like twice a year. I have a beautiful Irish setter because I did not have a choice in the breed of the dog. And her name is Rosie, and I like to run. I run marathons because that's my meditation and where all my best thinking comes from. And I teach yoga, so that is the yin to my yang. So I do this, and then I go teach people how to zen out, which probably might seem a little crazy with my high energy and my bubbly personality. So,
But you're good at it.
yeah.
I've taken her class.
Yes, she
She
has.
does.
Yeah. So that is a little bit about me, and what I've done in the district and kind of my experience. I will be very honest with you, when I came to public schools from NEC, I had no idea what executive functioning was. I sat in an IEP meeting and it got tossed around like 15 times. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Why am I in public school? I have no idea what this is. I'm gonna be terrible at my job. So I've dedicated a lot of time over the last 5 years to really getting to know what executive functioning is, how we can help students both in school and at home to build those skills to make sure independence is grown by the time they get to either senior year or that post-22 year. So that is a little bit about me. So if you don't know what it is, don't worry, I've been there. That panicky feeling, we're gonna walk through it. All right, so the agenda, we're gonna talk about what is executive functioning, which you'll see as EF throughout the presentation. We'll go through the cognitive processes, what it looks like and how to support it. The target skills for each grade level, pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And then we will talk about the effects of learning for students with challenges, understanding the disabilities and executive functioning, then 10 specific ways to support children with executive functioning challenges, both at school and at home. And then we'll do the question and answer portion, and I have some wonderful resources for you if you would like them. So we will get cracking. We only have till 8:30, so I'm gonna try and talk quickly and we are gonna move through this. All right, so introduction to executive functioning. I'm gonna let Erin read this out loud.
Executive functioning, EF, refers to a set of cognitive processes that help an individual plan, organize, remember instructions, manage time, focus on tasks. EF skills are essential for students to manage daily tasks both in and out of school.
The big crux is every part of your life you are using EF skills, no matter what. So that's why it's extremely important to try and develop these skills through adolescence, teenage years, all the big fun stuff until they get to adulthood. And that's why we have lovely teams of teachers and parents to help work on that. In research of EF, the core components, there are 9 that we're gonna go through, but the main big daddy 3, I like to call them, is working memory, the ability to hold and manipulate information, cognitive flexibility, so that being able to switch your attention between either tasks or information, and then that inhibitory control, so being able to control those impulses. Like that's the one I love the most, is like the impulses that I see from like little kids in preschool and how that transitions all the way up to high school and really working on that impulse control. Like high school kids have zero impulse control, and like those are the fun kids too. But another thing that's important is EF skills are key for setting and achieving goals, problem solving, managing time, regulating emotions. That's something I deal with a lot with my STAR kiddos, that are needed for success in school and life. All right, I had a video. She does a beautiful job explaining it. We're gonna start it, but for the sake of time, I might cut it at some point. I can also send this presentation to you guys after if you would like to watch it, because it's like 4 minutes long, but we will get it to start and see what happens. But I don't want to
My name is Joyce Cooper Khan. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I work primarily with children and teens who have problems with executive functioning. Executive functioning is such a fuzzy term for some people. It's sometimes described as the conductor of the orchestra or the CEO of the brain. Basically, executive functioning is a term that covers all of the neurological processes associated with goal-directed behavior. The metaphor that I like to use for executive functioning is it's like the navigator on our car. I can plug in a destination, and it will not only keep track of where I am, but where I am in relation to my goal, exactly what steps I need to take to get there, and it will give me a prediction based on the pace that I'm going, based on the traffic, when am I likely to arrive. It adjusts if I make a wrong turn or if there's more traffic than we expect. So it's this process of supervising my intention of getting to a destination, and it keeps adjusting my efforts in order to reach that goal. So that's essentially what our executive functions do for us. And the goal might be, I want to finish my chores by 4 o'clock because then I can go to the playground. Or it might be, I need to finish this project by April 3rd so that I can get a good grade on it. Or it might be, I want to get all of my homework done so my mom doesn't yell at me today. Any and all of those goals are supervised by our executive functioning system, and so that's the system that pays attention to what we intend to achieve, how we're going to get there. There appears to be one neurological circuit that primarily handles behavioral and emotional functioning, and another circuit that's primarily responsible for cognitive functioning. They overlap, of course, but the beauty is that the more research we accumulate, the more it seems to mirror what we've known all along, that those things can happen in an individual, be delayed or be a strength, and sometimes both things are in sync, sometimes they are separate pieces.
Okay. I think what the biggest takeaway from that video I loved,
Sorry, Joyce.
is how she explains the whole process of executive functioning. Like that idea of plugging in a destination and all the pieces that go together of trying to get to that destination. So when you think of planning, some students have struggle planning or initiating, or if they come and they face a challenge, problem solving might be the issue that they struggle with, where like that part of the navigation system of like, oh, there's traffic because there's an accident ahead, is there another way I can go? I just liked how she mapped that out and how we can look at executive functioning and how our kids might have some deficits in some areas, but strengths than others. So I thought she did a beautiful job of explaining that, better than I probably was gonna do. All right.
Funny.
All right, so let me just make sure I didn't miss a slide. So I talked about there are 9 specific pieces to executive functioning. Impulse control, working memory, that attention focus piece, that cognitive flexibility, which is the shifting attention, planning and organizing, problem solving, emotional regulation, self-monitoring, and that inhibitory control. Some of these pieces come later in life than some other pieces. Sometimes you need certain pieces built before you can get to the next couple of items to build those skills of executive prerequisites. Like you go to college and you gotta take some prereqs to get to a different course. And we're gonna walk through exactly from age to age what things you would work on and those stepping stones of where to go. Because like self-monitoring, I usually don't deal with that for kids until they get to high school. I wouldn't do that for like a kindergartner. Be like, hey, can you self-monitor how many times you called out in class today? Like that's not happening, so. All right, so we're just gonna bounce back and forth. I'll let you take it away, because again, I didn't drink a lot of water today, so I'm getting dry mouth.
All right, so impulse control. Waiting their turn. It's like you're in preschool, and that's like the first thing I remember. One of the kindergarten teachers at Sheehan would always be like, the first day of kindergarten and the first few weeks, it's like we're just herding cattle, right? Like we're just trying to teach them how to move as a group and how to sit in a circle, how to raise their hand and not talk over everybody, and just to like hold off on those immediate desires, right? Which, I have issues with myself, so sometimes it's hard, especially when you're younger. Your brain's not fully developed, it's gonna look different. So how are we gonna help with that? Structured routines, right? So if you do go into a kindergarten, first grade classroom, they've got job charts, they've got, the morning routine where they come in and they put their folder in, and then you put your backpack up, and then you do your lunch stick, and right, like those are ingrained, and they take 6 to 8 weeks at the beginning of every school year to implement and model and practice those routines. And then, now that I'm in middle school, you notice that when you get there, right, like those staple routines that happen every single day, and you're moving from teacher to teacher and learning everybody's different personalities and how they run their classroom, it does get a little bit more difficult. And those are when those skills need to kick in of like self-advocacy and what can I do to help and support myself. So it looks a lot different, right, as you get older, and you have those social implications too. In kindergarten, it's okay to cry, right? Kids cry, everybody cries. It's like, okay. 7th or 8th grade, if you just break down and cry in the middle of a classroom, you have all of these other 7th and 8th graders staring at you like, why is that kid crying right now, right? So, praise, self-regulation. So another way is, giving that positive reinforcement. Anytime you see, we do this a lot, we did this a lot in STAR, we're doing this in the middle school right now too, hey, thank you for coming prepared to class today. For somebody who typically doesn't come prepared to class, right? And then they get that boost. Who doesn't like a boost, a compliment?
I think, if you don't mind me stepping in, I think the biggest thing is, and I thought about this as I was putting this presentation together, when it comes to skills and being a behavior analyst, my goal and my job is to be able to teach kids skills from start to finish. And if someone said to me, Stephanie, go change the oil in your car, no one's ever taught me how to do that. I wouldn't know where to start. Luckily we have these mini computers with us 24/7. I can just Google it. But if I didn't have access to that, I would need somebody to teach me how to do that.
Right.
And that's where educators come into play, parents come into play, is making sure we take that time, and teachers do this, like Erin was saying at the beginning of the year, hammering in those routines and that structure to ensure they learn the skills that they can then start to do independently on their own. Yeah, so if anybody knows how to change your oil in your car, you can teach me, because I would love to do that and stop paying Valvoline $100 every couple months. All right, working memory. So I'll take this one.
Got it.
And this is one thing with presentations, they always say keep verbiage on the slides minimal, but all of this information is so key and important, and that I really want to read this all out to you so that we all are kind of on the same page of what exactly each bullet is. So what working memory looks like is the ability to hold and manipulate that information in their mind for short periods of time, but also long periods of time too. For anyone that has students or children that have special needs and have IEPs, 504s, you'll know from those 3-year re-evals, we work on that processing speed, that working memory, both long-term, short-term. But it's coming down to just remembering simple sets of instructions, recalling sequences and steps. I know for some of you, someone had answered on the question and answers, which we'll go over later, following directions. So remembering the directions, holding on to that, and knowing what they need to do even 5 minutes later. How we support that, memory games. If anybody remembers playing memory games when we were kids, flipping cards and then having to flip them back again, those are great. Simon says, actually, one of my transition kids just learned to play the Color Simon game, and it's become a wicked fun thing for him for trade-ins, is he tries to beat my score and we just go back and forth. Providing simple instructions with visual aids can be helpful, and then repeating key ideas to reinforce learning. So if you do have to repeat and prompt, it's okay, but over time you would hope that you can kind of scaffold back that prompting and that repeating.
Yeah, I'll even give my 9-year-old I'll give her direction in the morning, because she struggles with this herself, and then I'll say, okay, repeat it back to me so I know that you heard what I said, right? And she'll be like, okay, Mom, you told me to go get dressed. And I'm like, okay, one more time, please, because I need to make sure that this happens. So the cognitive processes of executive functioning, attention and focus. The ability to focus on a task or activity for an age-appropriate period.
I put those below, so
Yes.
we knew exactly duration time frames of what those kind of goals and targets are for certain age frames. Just to give you guys a good idea of if you have a student who's in that elementary 1st to 5th, that's what we're looking at for a duration target.
Yeah, so like something as simple as paying attention during circle time or staying on task during play. So how to support it, keep activities brief and engaging. You know, we all see if our kid is interested in something, they're able to attend or play with that toy or in that game much longer than something that feels hard or challenging or overwhelming to them.
School. And we'll
Yeah,
talk
that's
later
different.
on
Yeah.
about how you would support the attention and focus piece, because I know a lot of students with ADHD diagnoses, how do we work on that in school for those that are a little bit further behind on what that target duration is. So we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get through the 10 specific ways we help aid that.
Totally.
Cognitive flexibility, so the shifting attention. This looks like switching between tasks to adapt or to new rules or situations. Preschoolers might be playing with one toy and then they see someone playing with one that looks fun and they just slide over from magnet tiles to now bristle blocks, and like being able to switch that focus but also being able to understand like we've switched to this now, so teaching them the skills of like you've switched your attention, let's focus on that instead of switching back and forth, which little kids we see that, but that's fine. How to support it, offer varied activities that require changes in routine or tasks, give clear transitions and explanations of what you need them to do. Again, preschool, younger grades, giving those like clear cut transitions. All right, everybody, it's time to clean up your activity, wash your hands, grab your lunchbox, sit down and start eating. So just giving those clear instructions of part 1, part 2, part 3. This is what I'm looking for, the sequence, and being able for them to shift from like, I've cleaned up my toys, I'm now gonna go wash my hands, I've washed my hands, I now need to go get my lunchbox, and shifting that attention to these various activities. Planning and organizing. I will steamroll her and take over, so she's gotta cut.
And I will let her. Planning and organization, what it looks like. A preschooler starts to learn how to organize their toys, put things away, or plan the steps for a project, like drawing a picture or building a tower. So how to support it? Provide simple organizational tools like bins or labels. Break tasks down into steps and model how to plan activities. So I know you'll see a lot of times with younger people, I mean even older people, they'll take a picture of how like your drawer is set up, right? Like we all have a junk drawer, but maybe your junk drawer is clean and you've put the scissors here and you have pencils in a tray here and then you have crayons in this spot and you have all the things there, even by placing like pictures underneath each place so that somebody knows how to put them back in the place that they took them from, or on the bin, just a picture of what it looked like when you put everything in there too. Those visual cues are really helpful, especially for younger kids.
Yeah. And I know this talks a lot of like preschool, what it looks like and how to support it, but these skills transition throughout middle school then high school. Think about like kids when they have multiple classes, they've got history, they've got biology, they have Spanish. How do they organize their binders and kind of that planning and organizing of like keeping track of their homework, keeping track of assignments, keeping track of paper. Oh my God, some high school backpacks, when I see those kids open them, it gives me anxiety. I would love to just clean them up for them, but that is that planning and organizing piece that we help them work on. Problem solving. So again, just working through figuring out solutions. Again, it goes back to preschool, but like say you're missing an item or something gets broken, asking for help, asking, for resources and advocating. How do we support it? Encourage children to think of multiple ways. I saw this in a classroom today. I was in a 4th grade classroom and a girl was like, I need a pencil. And the teacher was like, all right, let's think about this. Is this a situation where an adult really needs to help you? And she was like, well, no, not really. And she's like, so what other solutions are there? She's like, I could ask a friend if I could borrow one. She's like, yeah, there's an option. I could go check my cubby to see if there's one in my backpack or in my folder. And so like, it's helping kids try and realize, like, yes, it's easy to just ask an adult right away, but really trying to teach them, like, hey, big problem, little problem, medium-sized problem, which one needs an adult? Come to me if it's a big one, if it's a small one, what are the ways we can work through it?
I think a lot about like tattletales, right? Like telling on your friends. And that happens so often as you're younger, even as you get older. But also kind of explaining, like, you know, when you're telling on someone, you want to make sure that it's something that's like, if you're feeling unsafe or if someone's going to hurt you, you know, like otherwise you want to try to work it out with your friends first. Because then you also don't want to be known as like the kid that just like runs up and tells on everybody at the teacher, like in the classroom. There always is. And my 6-year-old keeps coming home every day telling me, Mom, she keeps telling on me. She's not a good friend. And I'm like, well, you're the second child, so we've had some time to figure this out. But like, you know, she is getting super frustrated because she's getting told on every single day about tiny little things, right? And figuring out what are the appropriate ways to go and find and seek help, and when is it like we can kind of figure this out, or we can transition and do something differently, or I can just walk away, like that kind of stuff. But it's really difficult, especially when you're younger.
All right, I'm looking at time. I'm gonna
Yes.
hyperspeed here. You ready? All right, emotional regulation. She will give you the caveats in her personal stories.
Because I feel like those
No,
are connections.
they are connections, but we are only on an hour and a half time frame, and I want to make sure these guys get all the information. So emotional regulation, what it looks like: managing strong feelings, frustration, anger, excitement. We deal with this a lot in the STAR program. This can include calming down after tantrums, being able to express feelings in words rather than acting out. And again, we'll get to when kids have challenges with EF, if they have challenges with this emotional regulation, what we do to help them out. But how to support is labeling emotions, talking about appropriate ways to manage feelings, deep breath, counting, modeling calm behavior, and other quiet space if needed. Self-monitoring, again, I said to you guys, this is kind of one of those later in life skills. I don't really do this with younger. I know it says preschoolers here, but recognizing when they are doing something right or wrong and adjusting their behavior. Especially when we talk about the challenges for kids with EF. Again, this one I don't see and I don't really foster a lot with younger students, because there are other prerequisites that are more important to tackle before it's like, hey, I need you to be able to initiate on your own, follow directions, plan, like be able to have that attentional shift before I'm going to ask you to be kind of like your own your own monitor. Like, it's too much of a struggle to understand earlier in life. But how we support that is being able to praise that self-awareness, gentle reminders of expectations, encouraging them to check themselves. Can you remember what we're doing? How does that make you feel? Stuff like that. I have high school students where I have self-monitoring checklists for certain behaviors, like maybe calling out or taking laps or taking movement breaks for too long, and I'll have them match it up with support staff after class and see, like, hey, did you do a good job monitoring that on your own, or do we have to work on tightening that up and having, you know, someone give more prompting to, like, hey, it looks like you called out 5 times by my records, you only had 2. How do we work on increasing your ability to be self-aware and self-monitor? And then that inhibitory control, the ability to stop and think before acting. This is just that like really strong impulse. This might be stopping impulses like grabbing a toy from a friend or waiting for an adult's instructions. Again, this goes from pre-K all the way up to high school, and we just create opportunities for practicing with delays and waiting. We do this a lot in elementary school, waiting to get out to recess. That's a really great one because the impulse is strong there to want to go out and play, and just teaching those kids that waiting. All right, nobody panic. I love The Office, and I really love this picture of Michael Scott, but everybody stay calm. Public service announcement is that we are going to go through every single grade level now of what those basic universal targets are. I know that some people in here, your kids have challenges with different skills. Don't panic. These are just targets, and every child is unique and different in their development and needs. We're going to go over the supports and strategies for school and home after we go through all of the grade levels. So don't anyone worry yet. I hope you're not sitting there being like, oh my God, my kid doesn't do that. Like, I'm in so much trouble. We're screwed. You're not screwed. Don't worry about it.
It's like developmental milestones, right? Like every kid walks at a different time. Every kid, some kids don't crawl, some kids, right? Like it's all going to happen in its own time.
Yeah. I will send you guys these slides, so Asanka will send these out so you can really hone in on your specific grade level, and we'll go through this kind of quickly. Preschool, there was just so much to throw in there. It's a really big learning time for children. Like, that is the foundations of where they go for the rest of their lives. So we're working on waiting turns, following directions, working memories, remembering following multi-step directions. Cognitive flexibility is transitioning between activities. Planning and organization is being able to gather material, like just go get the magnet tiles, like something like that is simple. Attention control is focusing, like doing centers or like their community time, going over like calendars, days of the week, stuff like that. At home, we're working on waiting turn and managing emotions. We're working on remembering simple instructions from parents, adjusting to changes in routines that might happen at home. Things change up. Other people have different activities, siblings, appointments, all that stuff, and being able to be okay with changes there. Planning and organization, following steps to complete tasks like getting dressed. I know some people mention that getting dressed and out the door in the morning is a challenge and a half. You are not alone. There are plenty of parents in this district who are like, I cannot get my child out of the house to go to school for the life of me. Don't worry about it. You're not the only one. And then attention control, staying focused on activities like play or other tasks. So that is the preschool age. I will let you take over kindergarten. I will sit for a second.
All right, so kindergarten at school, like I said, herding cattle at the beginning, following one-step directions. It's time to put your backpack away. Now it's time to sit and do your morning work, Self-regulation, begin learning how to sit quietly for short periods, raise hands, and wait for turns. Attention, so focusing on a single task for short periods, listening to a story, or completing a simple activity. So like completing one of those, and then you have like a brain break, right? And everybody's dancing in the middle of the room.
And I'm just gonna step in, and back to that attention kind of chart we saw with each grade and like what those targets are. Your school teachers for your children take that into consideration, that developmental duration that they should be sitting and listening, and they will, like kindergarten, they'll sit and listen for 10 to 15 minutes, and then it's like we're getting up and we're doing like a go noodle. Like I swear if I see those go noodle guys one more time. But they need that because otherwise if you go any longer, you're losing all of them and then you've lost learning time. So your teachers...
Well, and then you have behavior too.
That's where I come in.
Maladaptive behavior.
But your teachers should be taking into account those target durations. Working memory.
Remember a few simple instructions. First we will color, then we will play outside. First then language is also really helpful to use at home too. Or now next. That's more of a command, but it's like this is gonna happen, so let's do it. Impulse control, practice waiting for their turn during group activities. Organization, start learning how to keep school supplies in a designated space. At home, following routines. So understand the basic routines, right? Like we all have those things in the morning you need to do. Get dressed, brush your teeth, pack your lunch. Remember your library books. I struggle with that for my kids and it's the worst. Time management, begin to learn the concept of time with simple visual schedules. We've talked about pictures already, sequences. Problem solving, start making simple decisions, such as which toy that they want to play with or what to play next. Even who to play with, right? Like in school or out of school, do we want to play date with so-and-so? Self-regulation, use strategies like taking deep breaths or counting to calm down when frustrated. And then task completion, so like putting your toys away after you've played with them. Or cleaning up after playing with minimal prompting. So knowing that I should put my stuff away even though I just laid it out all over the floor.
Starting to take ownership and like not putting it on you guys at home. Like this is the age where you start to be like, all right, now you gotta put your toys away or put your bike away or stuff like that. And starting to build that independence a little bit. All right, first grade, so that's 6 to 7 year olds. This is where we start to work more on independently and simple tasks like worksheets, art projects by themselves, managing emotions in group settings. This is where we start to have them really pair up with 1 to 2 other kids and practicing that self-control when upset or excited. This is where you start to see kids kind of argue with each other a little bit more and learn those group dynamics. But in a safe space with, the teachers working on that social emotional learning of like, again, waiting, that attention, shifting focus, and that group dynamic. Again, 10 to 15 minutes for that attention, listening to stories, working on math problems. Working memory is remembering and following now 2-step to 3-step directions. So please take out your math book and open to page 10, stuff like that. And then organizing, beginning organization of classroom materials. A lot of the time at this point, they have like bins for colored pencils, crayons, markers, whatever they have in a little pencil box, and they'll have folders for maybe different subjects. And problem solving is solving basic academic problems like how to finish puzzles, math exercises, fundations. I'm sure anyone who has any elementary school kids, if you've heard of fundations, that's a fun one. So they'll work on basic stuff like that. At home, you're completing daily tasks, again, the getting dressed, the brushing teeth, but now with minimal prompting. You're not needing as much parental oversight. Task completion of starting practicing how to finish assigned chores, setting table, picking up toys, cleaning up room, whatever that be. Time management is understanding the basics of sequence of events. So after dinner, it's time for a story, or after dinner, it's time to do homework, whatever that is for your family, and setting those routines. Self-regulation, beginning to recognize and express emotions more verbally rather than using, little kids, they might cry, they might kick and scream, but now more working on using that verbal language to explain how they're feeling. And then problem solving, thinking about how to solve those simple home-related problems like deciding what to wear or what to do first, homework or play. Usually it's homework. I would recommend do homework
Just get it
first
done.
before you
Yeah.
just rip the Band-Aid. Second grade.
Second grade. All right, so 7 to 8 years old. Task initiation and completion, start tasks with minimal prompting and complete them on time. Self-regulation, begin using coping strategies when frustrated or distracted, so like taking a break or asking for help. Attention, focus on tasks for 20 to 30 minutes.
This is where you jump a little bit.
Depending on the activity. And I mean, if you see, once you've had a first grader who goes into second grade, even, third grade, developmentally, that's a huge leap. And the curriculum and everything that they're learning too from first to second grade, it is just like their brains are so overloaded. And so if you do notice them coming home much more fatigued by the end of the day, it's because we are asking them to attend for a much longer period of time than they're actually used to. And most teachers will actually work up to it. Like you'll see like stamina reading, and they'll start at 10 minutes and slowly work their way up to it. So it's not happening like right at the beginning of the school year and they're completely overwhelmed. Working memory, remember and apply instructions that involve multiple steps. Organization, so use a planner or organizer to track your assignments and materials.
I see this more so with writing prompts in second grade of
Graphic
like
organizers.
teaching kids how to like come up with a topic and then give us 3 reasons why this works and then give us a conclusion sentence and starting to build those paragraphs. But that organization skill, again, is something that we take from say a second grade level and learn it there and carry that all the way to high school and even on to college, is like building those foundational skills for like long-term assignments and projects.
Yeah.
So this is where it starts, is that second grade.
Yeah, and then problem solving is like just beginning to be able to apply logic to solve problems. So if they're doing a math problem and they make a mistake, and we've all seen a kid get super angry and frustrated, or who doesn't like to make mistakes and then they lose it. But being able to kind of work through that and like take a deep breath, step away, come back to it, or solve a social issue with a peer. Like that made me feel sad when you played with so-and-so and didn't play with me. And like giving kids the language to start trying to communicate that. Does it always happen? No. Do we have to intervene a lot? Yes. But starting that introduction and trying to help them learn that skill. At home, routines. Follow more complex routines, getting ready for bed on their own. So brush your teeth, get your pajamas on, get your book, get in bed. I'll come in and, turn off the lights. But like having a consistent routine and making it the same every night, it actually will help them calm and be ready for bed. Complete assigned chores like feeding pets or cleaning their room with minimal prompting. Time management, use a visual timer, an alarm clock to wake them up in the morning. A lot of people have those green light alarm clocks, right? Like if it's green, you can get out of bed. If it's red, stay in bed.
Oh, that's cool. I don't have children, so this also will be a learning experience for me as well.
Yeah, they're actually, they're
cool.
great. One of my kids followed it, the other one didn't, so every kid's different. Develop strategies to cope with frustration, taking deep breaths or counting to 10. And I will say in school, we're giving kids a lot of this language and a lot of these tools, and we're working on them in the classroom. So it's not like, it wouldn't be unknown to them if you all of a sudden said to them, let's take deep breaths together. Let's do a bear breath or a bumblebee breath.
Or
They'll
smell
know.
the flower, blow out the birthday
Yeah,
candle. That's a
right?
big one that we use.
And apply problem solving strategies when things go wrong. If I can't find my homework, where should I look? Well, like, let's retrace my steps. You know, I went in this room, and then I went in this room, and then, you know, the times where I find my cell phone in the fridge. I'm sure everybody's been there.
No, I
Yeah.
have not been there.
Oh, many times.
I will now, so Erin had like the K through 2 star kiddos back, well, she had full for a
I
little
had them
while,
all.
and then
I've
she
got
got the
all
younger ones.
elementary.
But
Yeah.
I'll take 3rd to 5th grade, and then she'll take over middle school, and then
Yes.
I'll take over high school. So for 3rd grade, again, another big leap year. So for those parents here who have said like, oh, I got a 3rd grader, this is a big year where there's a jump in terms of those EF skills, and if you're seeing challenges, that's okay, because this is a year where the demands get a lot more intense very quickly. So at school, task initiation, completion, so beginning those independent work habits, starting and finishing tasks like reading and completing homework at home, we'll talk about that, but also in the classroom. Self-regulation is recognizing distractions and using strategies to regain that focus and attention. Your attention, we're now sustaining for 30 to 40 minutes of time, which is a long time. I've been in classes where I've observed 3rd grade, and after 30 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, that was painful, and I'm 34 years old. So like, I can only imagine what an 8 to 9 year old is feeling when now they're being expected to focus for 30 to 40 minutes at a time. Working memory, so following now 3 to 4 step instructions, retaining that information and applying it to new tasks, but also generalizing it. That's a big piece of behavior analysis, at least, is being able to learn skills but then generalize them to different contexts or different situations. So that is where we kind of, in 3rd grade, want to see them be able to generalize that working memory skill of holding information and utilizing that in different areas. Organization, now we're definitely using planners, folders, checklists, homework binders, using graphic organizers, like we say, and it's just, this is where we really start to push those organizational skills. And then problem solving, this is where kids start to have cliques form. So this is a great place, another developmental phase is that 3rd grade. Everyone starts to be socially aware of how people think of them and what they look like, and oh my gosh, like, boyfriends and girlfriends, oh my God, it's happening in 3rd grade, I tell you right now. I had a 4th grader today say,
Don't ask
did
me
you,
about my kindergartner.
no, I had a 4th grader today say to me, she's like, did you hear the news? And I'm like, oh, that you and your crush are off. She's like, how did you know? And I was like, I know everything, but also like, you're in 4th grade, so can we just like take a chill pill? We're not doing that right now. So that is the problem solving. Those cliques start to form, and that is sometimes hard for kids with EF challenges to navigate those social constructs and those problems that might arise socially, playground, outside of school, sports teams, all that stuff. At home, we're looking for kids to follow routines, morning, after school, bedtime, if they've got sports or events after school. This is where you want them to start to have a little bit more independence in following through with those routines and schedules. Task completion, chores, like, you guys should not be catering to their every whim at this point. If they're in 3rd grade, this is where you really want to see some independence flourish. Folding laundry, I'm sure you would all love that one to happen if they could help you out with that.
That's one that mine does do. My 9-year-old likes
My
to
husband
fold.
doesn't even do that, so. And then time management, using timers help. This is also a big piece where you, in 3rd grade, want kids to understand how long a duration of certain things are. Because like, they'll be on a video game or they might be on an iPad. I've done it myself, gone on a deep dive on Instagram, and next thing I know, an hour's gone by. And I think that's where kids start to lose that concept of time. And I think that's a big thing now for this generation we have. 3rd grade and up is teaching them like concepts of time, like this is how long it should take you to do X, this is how long it should take you to do Y, because I think we just think there's this infinite amount of time from scrolling on these goddamn cell phones and computers and iPads, that this time management is really where you want to start developing this idea. Self-regulation, big emotions. Again, this is where you really want kids to be using those words, not as much of the tantrums and the tears and the blowouts and stuff like that. And working on those calming activities and mindfulness. I think this is where we can start to really hone in on that mindfulness and being aware of your emotions and others' emotions and how they all affect each other. And then problem solving, resolving home-related issues. Like, if you've got siblings and there's fighting, it's a situation where it's like, you guys can work it out. Mom is not handling this anymore. It's okay to do that at this age. And I really focus in on that third grade because there is such a big leap in that third grade year for EF skills. Fourth grade, very similar to third grade, so we'll kind of go through this. It's pretty much the same. You just see more of a jump now to 45 minutes of attention, controlling those impulses, working in groups and collaborative, task initiation, so independently beginning things and completing projects, that working memory is still retaining information learned and generalizing it to different areas. Organization of keeping more long-term assignments. You get those fun history things like pick a history thing or a person and do a report on it. So being able to go through the process of like long-term assignments, projects, and homework. And then problem solving, approaching again that social H, just having them be able to navigate those social constructs. At home, stick to household routines. Task completion, begin taking responsibility for more involved tasks. Now preparing meals. You do not need to cook for them until they go to college. You can start this really young, and I only say that because I did home services for kids that we had that were older, like the 18 to 22, I had to teach a kid how to cut an onion during COVID on Zoom. It was wild. So teach your kids how to cut an onion in 4th grade, all right? Teach them how to make American chop suey in 4th grade, because it's not fun doing it when they're 19 on Zoom. But anyhow, so have them start preparing food and having, like, taking ownership and pride in being a family member. Like, you are a team, you are a group, and giving them those tasks at this age. Time management, again, still understanding how long things take. Self-regulation, using tools to manage stress, and then problem solving, again, working through those complex challenges. All right, 5th grade, I will still continue. It's still the same stuff. And I know some of you might have said you have 5th graders in here. Again, we're still kind of like that 45 minutes, almost kind of creeping up to an hour of that attention span. Again, working memory is that large amounts of information. Lectures now, actual readings and book assignments, like whole chapter book assignments. That's where it gets a little daunting. Book clubs.
Yes.
And then organization, using planners, binders, keeping track, because this is the piece where it's going to get really important when they get to middle school, because you don't have the same teacher for everything when you get to middle school.
Right.
5th grade, you still have one person for history, for math, for English. Now it's going to get more complex when you start to have to work with different adults in different subject areas.
Yes.
So this is where you really want to work on that skill with your kids of like the problem solving with the organization of homework and keeping track of that. And then at home, same thing. Push your kids. They're starting to get into the teenage years. They can be household members and participate and add something to the community. So push them. All right, 6th grade, take it away.
6th grade. So taking responsibility for tasks such as reading assignments, essays, and projects. If your school, if the 5th grade class isn't using Google Classroom, that is what they're going to be using once they get to the middle school. And it does have everything come in like a stream of consciousness, but it's broken down by each class too. So the organizational piece is like so major. And we do have kids who do still require that like written notebook and assignment notebook, and that's okay. Like, I'm somebody that still writes everything down, right? So like there are different ways that will help and support kids when they get to that point, but I will say that that's probably like the biggest shift in that organizational piece is having to monitor all of your Google Classrooms, monitor your email, monitor, each teacher asking you and telling you have different tests at this time of day or this time of the week, and just keeping track of all of that. It can be super overwhelming for 6th grade. Like, we do a really good job of kind of keeping them contained, and I won't keep going because I know you're like, you have time constraints. But
She's reading my mind. I'm like,
it's really important.
I know.
Like, when they transition, that's probably one of the more difficult things, and navigating the building because it's really confusing. Self-regulation. Recognize when they're overwhelmed, ask for help, or take breaks as needed. Focus on tasks for 45 to 60 minutes with limited redirection from teachers. Retain and apply information from class lessons, often needing to make connections between ideas. We just talked about that organizational piece. Problem solving, consider multiple strategies for solving both academic and social problems. How to study for a test, or how to handle a peer conflict. Who are my people that I can talk to and try to work this out, and then go back and try to figure it out.
Because middle school is daunting I will never work at the middle school because the social aspects of middle school life scare the crap out of me.
I actually think you would love it.
No, I know, I'd go up no matter what.
Yeah.
But I just I remember my middle school years, and I think they're really deep, back there, and I can't get them. So I blacked out middle school.
Same.
So I can only imagine kids in 2025 what it's like going through middle school.
Making it work.
Yeah, you have to go through it, but that social problem solving piece is very big once they get into middle school. Because you have 4 elementary schools converging into one. That's a lot of little humans just all meeting new people, finding their tribes, and trying to figure out where they belong. Once they're in high school, they've figured that out. They've been together for 3 years, so I feel calm with that. But that 6th grade year, forget it. I can't even imagine navigating that.
That's why we have Erin.
I know.
We're doing great.
I know. I was
Class
gonna
is
say,
doing
Erin
great this year.
has it all under control.
Yeah, don't worry. 5th grade parents will come. I'll go talk to all the kids in 5th grade. We'll have a night for you, so don't worry. It's okay.
Just know I feel for your child.
Don't let Stephanie scare you.
We're all gonna be okay. We're all gonna be okay.
All right, and then at home?
Home, handle daily routines independently with some flexibility. So, if there's a late night, Wednesday nights are late dance night, and so homework doesn't look the same as it does on a Tuesday night where we don't have a ton of activities. And accounting for that, right? Manage longer and more complex chores.
Grocery shopping.
Laundry, grocery shopping, minimal reminders. Use digital tools, phone reminders or apps to stay on top of responsibilities. Like we said, we'll use Google Classroom. It'll keep them on track with all their stuff.
I have some more resources too for the homework folks that said they struggle with homework.
Yes.
And kind of keeping things organized in different tools and resources later on.
Totally. Handle frustration and stress by engaging in positive coping mechanisms. So physical activity, journaling. A lot of these kids do sports. If your kid's not a sports kid, simple walks, like playing outside, just running around for a little bit, get your body moving, it's helpful.
Those Dear Diary days, maybe kids will start writing in diaries again about today so-and-so said this about me. But I don't think kids do.
They do.
They do?
Some do.
Oh, that's exciting. I thought that was a dead art form, so that's, again, I'm not a parent, so. Good.
Yeah.
Do
Taylor
parents still
Swift,
try
she
to-
writes all the songs.
Oh,
That's
that's
what
right.
the kids do.
I'm so sorry. I'm not a Swiftie, so
Yeah,
I don't know that.
they're all, yeah.
No, I'm more of an Evanescence, dark type human.
Bring me to life.
Yeah.
We're losing it. Problem solving, resolve conflicts at home and make decisions about their free time. So what are they gonna do with it?
Are they going to do kids still go to the mall to meet up with
No,
friends?
they go, the Legacy place, they meet up at Legacy.
That's an outdoor.
Starbucks, that's a happening spot. I avoided after school between the hours of 3
Okay,
and
all right.
4:30.
Or Alton.
Or Alltown.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
With the gas station?
At the gas station.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah, I got gas there today and I saw 8 6th grade girls.
Interesting.
Mhm.
All right, 7th and 8th grade. This is where we start to combine grades because things start to get just pretty seamless from now until 12th grade.
Mhm.
But 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, so work more independently on academic tasks and projects, self-regulation, manage time effectively, balancing academic work with social and extracurricular activities, attention, focus for longer periods, often requiring self-discipline and fewer reminders, working memory, make connections across different subjects or ideas, organization, manage multiple assignments, extracurricular activities and deadlines, and problem solving. So consider consequences of actions and make independent decisions. Yes.
Should I send this Snapchat picture? Should I send this
No.
test?
That's
The
my
answer
life.
is usually no. But yeah, so
We talk a lot about that though, in middle school for sure.
all right, high school. I put it all on one slide. So my high school friends over here, it's just a nice 14 to 18 years old. So for that 9th to 10th grade, we are looking for complete complex task projects independently, including research and reports. Yes, that's when we start to really dive in and research. The kids in history, I think they used to be called DBQs and they're different now. If anybody remembers that when we were in high school, it's like getting 5 articles together and trying to find the commonalities. That's the complex stuff these kids are doing once they get to like high school history. Self-regulation, using self-monitoring. This is where I told you guys, this is where I start to have kids be accountable for their own behavior. Realize, oh crap, I called out like 5 times in class today. And how can we fix that, and what's our goal for the next class? Attention, maintaining focus, 60 minutes. Every block is 60 minutes. We're not looking for any more than that for each subject area. And we have that S block for them to be able to get some extra work done, meet with teachers, that sort of thing. Working memory, retaining, and applying large volumes of information across multiple subjects. Organization, keeping track of academic responsibilities and deadlines with the use of digital tools and apps. And again, I think Google Classroom is wonderful. I'm more of a paper pencil sometimes, and I've been given access to Google Classrooms from high school teachers. It is overwhelming. We are in a digital age, and I think sometimes it's just finding the right modes that work for kids with EF challenges. Maybe they do need that like actual paper planner, and it's just working with your teams and figuring that out, and your kids' teachers or special ed teams. Problem solving, so plan and execute solutions for academic, personal, and social challenges. Again, now kids are starting to take that shift of like, I'm in high school now, I'm getting ready for college, which is a lot of fun. 9th graders are just like, I'm out of middle school, and then you've got your seniors who are like, oh my god, I'm gonna live on my own on a campus next year in college. So it's a very wide variety, but the kids are really working on problem solving their lives and where they're going in the next 4 years. 11th and 12th grades, so independently managing major academics, research, presentations, final exams, AP classes. Self-regulation, so demonstrating that self-control, especially during stressful, high-stakes periods, college applications, SATs, ACTs. I love when those come around because like kids and Westwood, like the kids want to do very well. Yeah. This district is all about, making sure academics are, kids take it very seriously, and the sports as well, so that way they get into good colleges. Attention, you're focusing intensely on tasks for prolonged periods or even over durations of time. Working memory is integrating and applying knowledge across subjects in real world context. They are about to hit the real world. 18, they are out of the nest. You are empty nesters. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of us.
Doesn't happen anymore. They all come back.
They all come back. But knowing that if they do go off to college, like they really need to be able to figure out these real world problems on their own. I mean, I still call my mom and I'm 34, but you would hope that they figure these things out on their own. Organization, academic work, extracurricular, personal life, digital tools, and social media. Again, this is a tough one in high school when kids get there. Social media is a big aspect. Do I look cool on Instagram? Do I look cool in my Snapchats and what I post and everything? And sometimes that takes over, but that's okay. It's just trying to rein them back in to realize that academics is kind of the focus. And being a contributing family member is also important in the home. Because this is where they start to kind of detach and be like, parents aren't cool, and they don't want your help as much anymore, and you're kind of like, ooh, but like I could really help you with this. And then problem solving, engaging in critical thinking and problem solving, academic and personal, balancing schoolwork, jobs. That's a fun one. When they turn 14, they can get a working permit. Holy cannoli. So just working on problem solving and teaching them the skills of like how to be a good employee, how to fill out a job application or their working permit application, how to interview. I mean, I with my dog, I go to a dog. I had one mother, her daughter said, can you get my resume out of our like safety fireproof box? And her mom was like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, well, like my resume, my birth certificate, like you have all that, right? And the mom's like, no, you have to make your own resume. So teaching this, and this is not someone in Westwood, I promise you. This is, I live in Quincy. But I was just like, I stood there and I was like, oh my God, she thought you just had her resume. She was like ready to go in a safety lockbox. So just teaching teaching those skills to get ready, because like
ChatGPT can help with that.
100%. But I was just like, oh my God, it's in a safety lockbox. But teaching the kids these skills, because once they get out of college, they're going to be getting jobs. And so like putting your best foot forward is the biggest skill I feel like we can teach kids once they get to high school, is being a respectful and well-functioning adult that is going to put their best foot forward.
What to wear to an interview.
Yeah. Oh, my Aura ring is saying I'm very heightened right now.
Typed.
All right, how executive functioning affects learning. So this is where we're going to start to dive in. Kids with EF challenges, impacts on the academic performance. So working memory allows students to remember multiple steps, but if working memory is weak, students are going to struggle with that. Following directions, holding on to information, being able to transition from one thing to another. And again, we're going to go through the 10 steps of how to help that, but that's one of the big areas where we see challenges is that memory piece. The impulse control, so being able to, without this skill, students might have difficulty staying on task, following classroom rules, or resisting the urge to interrupt. Like, I'm sure you've probably heard or seen TV shows and videos of like, Johnny calls out every time and the teacher's like, oh my gosh, I've told you like 5 times, raise your hand. So like that impulse control of like teaching kids to like keep it in your thought bubble. That's one we use all the time in elementary school. To like try and work on that, following rules and those impulses. And then that flexibility is shifting that attention. They might get stuck with rigid thinking, unable to shift from one task to another. I've had a lot of kids where like it is very hard to, if they haven't finished something, to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that is okay. I'm kind of the same. Like if I start a puzzle, I'm not leaving that table until that whole thing is done. So do not open a box of a 1,000 piece puzzle. I will be there forever. But
I'm at the opposite. Don't even give
Don't
me
open
it's
it
really
up.
bad. It's really bad. But this is that cognitive flexibility, which apparently I don't have in some aspects. EF challenges, but being able to help them out with that rigid thinking and understanding like it is okay to put something away if you're not done and move on to something else. And I think
or to leave it and save it for later. Like we can come back to this at another time. Your 1,000 piece puzzle.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
Yep, we will. We were doing puzzles in STAR at the beginning of the school year, and then we had to stop because I kept coming in and I wouldn't stop doing the puzzles. All right, so understanding ADHD, disabilities, social emotional challenges. So for ADHD, characterized by difficulty sustaining attention, impulsivity, hyperactivities, these symptoms are directly linked to impairments in EF, particularly in that attention, regulation, and the self-control, that impulse. And I see this all the time, from all the way from pre-K up to my 22-year-olds. This just spans the whole shebang, is that ADHD piece. And again, we'll talk about different ways to help in terms of supporting that, but that is the big piece, is that impulse and attention shifting. Disabilities and executive function, so learning disabilities, dyslexia, dyscalculia, they can interfere with that cognitive flexibility, the ability to shift, especially if you're reading words and the letters are all jumbled up. It's very hard to shift. Yeah. And we have educators in this district that are very well versed in how to help and support kids with those types of learning disabilities. And then other disabilities, intellectual disabilities, autism spectrum, often challenges planning, initiating, problem solving, social interactions, impulse control. Again, another whole shebang, and that's really what I deal with when it comes to the students that are more severe with their disabilities. And then the social emotional, and the little STAR friends. Students dealing with anxiety, depression, trauma often experience difficulties, obviously, with that self-regulation. Time management, a lot of kids with that trauma, they don't have a very good concept of time. Time kind of stands still for them, and they don't realize how long things either last or how short things are. So they have a very hard time with that shifting in time management, and then maintaining the focus.
We'll see in middle school they'll ask for a break, and then they have no idea how long they've
Yes.
been gone for.
Same thing
and
happens
like,
in high
You've been
school.
gone for 15 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
where the heck have you been? And
Concept
they're
of
like,
time
what? It
is-
was like 3. No.
Yeah. So, but know that kids with potential trauma backgrounds, that piece is very big, and I've seen it a lot in my 11 years, both at the private school and in public school, is those kids definitely have a more challenging time understanding, like, I was gone for 15 minutes, and it's just kind of ways we can support that. All right, so strategies. This is the 10 strategies. We're going to go through each of them. We're doing okay on time. I think we can get to a point where we'll have 15 minutes for question and answer, because we got till 8:30. All right, so very quickly, you know what, we're just going to go through it. So number 1, establishing structure and routine. Take it away, because I feel like I totally just like steamrolled there, so
I'm
go.
just going to like crush the question and answer session.
That's what you want to do, that's fine.
Establish structure and routine. Children with EF challenges, they thrive with predictability, with routines, with structure, both at school and at home. So making sure that we're establishing clear routines to help reduce stress anxiety around transitions, making it easier for children to stay organized and on task. So these are some of the things that we use in school, and they can be used at home too. Visual schedules, so using visual cues like charts, timers, written lists to outline the daily schedule. I mean, you'll see in every classroom, elementary through high school, preschool, the daily schedule is always up on the board.
All the way up to the transition program.
Yes. They help children know what's coming next, right? You'll often see people will even move like a little thing to show, like, we're here, this is coming next, so that kids can predict and know what's happening. With a lot of students, we even do preview and review every single day. There are some kids we sit down with every morning and we say, this is your schedule for the day. Do you have any questions? This is a little bit different today, so that might be a little unexpected for you, but like, this is what we're gonna do to support you and help you get through that. Break tasks into smaller steps, so clear step-by-step instructions to prevent overwhelm. Maybe the mornings are super hard and you are like, brush your teeth, brush your hair, get your clothes on, eat your breakfast, pack your bag, and some kids are so overwhelmed by that, like you might need to start with even, all I need you to do this morning is make sure that you get your clothes on. Get yourself dressed today. And you do that for a couple weeks, like get dressed. Today, you just need to get dressed. And then once they have done that and they do that successfully for a few weeks, then now, okay, now add another step. So adding it in simple steps so that it's attainable and it's something that they can feel good about and be proud of, instead of just having this list of like 7 things that they have to do to get out the door every morning.
Essentially, in behavior analysis, we call that systematically increasing. So like starting with one thing, making sure that they master it before you would add on or move to the next thing.
Right, yeah. Consistent reminders, so cues to remind students of upcoming transitions. It's 5 minutes before we switch to the next activity. I used to use a bell sound.
Oh, that's right.
I had a little
forgot about
chime
that.
that I would do,
Ding.
and then they would know to stop, and they would just like put their hands like this is so elementary right now, but those are all signs and signals that we're going to be listening and we're going to get ready to move on.
I would say, if anything, the establishing structure and routine, especially for students with EF challenges, is the biggest piece.
Yeah.
And being consistent from home and school.
Yeah.
So making sure you're talking with either teachers, or if you have a student that is IEP 504s, asking to collaborate. Language is big. I can't tell you, using similar language between school and home, kids immediately know, oh crap, they're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And so that way they know the expectations are the same at home and school. It's usually once that connection and that teamwork comes together, you really start to see kids take off independently.
And ask us, we'll tell you, we'll give you everything.
And we even take language from you guys as well.
Yes.
Like I've sat in parent clinics where I've said, hey, what are the phrases and stuff you use at home? And then we'll utilize that in school, and kids will be like, you sound like my mother. And it's like, yes, I do, because we are going to use this in both locations.
Right, or if you're using some type of incentive plan at home too,
We'll carry it
it's
over.
so helpful for us to know, because we'll be like, oh, hey, you know what? Mom and Dad told us that you were doing this at home. Like, let's support you. Let's get through this together, and we're gonna move through.
But that is that structure and routine piece. Setting clear expectations and providing feedback. At school, focusing on specific short-term goals, such as completing one part of an assignment at a time. We've had kids where they might get a worksheet, like a math worksheet that has 20 problems on it. We will break it down at school and maybe only put 5 on a page at a time, especially for kids that have a hard time shifting and focusing that attention to make things not as chaotic on a page and something they can really hone in on. And frequent check-ins, so teachers coming over, just, kind of walking by a desk, do you need anything? Is there anything I can help you with? Especially for students that are younger who don't have that self-advocacy yet, to give them opportunities to be like, actually, yes, I do need help with this right now.
Or if somebody's nervous in class and doesn't want attention, we might give them a silent signal. Like, hey, give me this signal to show me that you need my help, or put this little card on your desk, and that way I'll know to come over, so you're not raising your hand and drawing attention to yourself.
And I've made those for students behaviorally in the past that have had struggles with that self-advocacy and don't want to speak up, is like, hey, just hold up a card or pass it to the teacher, so that way they know that if you need feedback or help. At home, establish clear rules and rewards. Set simple, clear rules for behavior. You need to complete math homework before dinner, or you need to complete X or Y before you get to play with toys, or use your PlayStation, or your Nintendo Switch, all of that fun stuff. And then positive reinforcement, this is kind of like the behavior analytic bread and butter, is just using praise specific behaviors, such as like, I like how you finished your work before playing, really naming the behavior that you're seeing and pumping it up, so that way they're gonna do it more later on. All right, go ahead.
Visual aids. So we've talked a lot about this already, like with the drawers and
Yes.
the pictures, visual supports and tools that help plan and organize and complete tasks. It can be something as simple as like getting just like a little checklist and lines and saying, tonight you have ELA homework, this is what you need to do, and then you have a math task, and then having the kid go through and checking off what they've done. And
There are
it's a
apps as
success.
well.
Yeah, there are apps too, but
That I will
like,
share.
I literally sit down and just make my own to-do list on my whiteboards, right? And I make little boxes and I check them off as I go along. But it doesn't have to be this beautiful, like, bells and whistles plan with beautiful pictures. It can be very easy.
And simple.
Graphic organizers, checklists, color coding to help kids visually break down and organize their work. So like folders, right? Like science is a green folder, math is your blue folder. So making sure that that helps them stay organized too. And timers are just always helpful, even if you get those tiny little ones on Amazon.
Timers are my favorite thing.
And this is something that's super helpful for homework too, is like a tiny little timer. And so that kids can see like how long they've been working on something. Because we also have kids who will like put so much emphasis and effort and like work overtime because they really want to get everything done, and then they've been working on like one problem for like 20 minutes, and that's stressful in itself. So like just noting like, hey, work on this problem for 5 minutes, here's your timer, and then we're gonna come and work together if you can't figure it out.
But don't use Alexa, because you should say, Alexa, set timer 10
Oh,
minutes.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Alexa, stop timer.
Yeah, yeah. Alexa can be a little distracting.
I use the little like kitchen timers that you would used to use for like cooking.
You can get a whole box on Amazon.
I
dirt
pretty
cheap.
much buy them once every month to
Yeah.
like have in all
Yes.
of my locations around the district.
Same.
And when someone's like, "Do you have a timer?" I'm like, "Oh yes." So I like pass them out like Oprah at or like Christmas
I
special.
have 3 boxes in my office every day.
Yeah. And another thing with the timers is, again, it's that passage of time piece. Again, for some children, especially more the social emotional, that don't have that like concept of how long things last or the stamina to keep going. And that's where you can build perseverance and kind of like being able to, all right, I have a really hard time doing this for 5 minutes. I'm gonna set a timer for 4 because I know I can do 3. 4 is kind of meeting that happy medium and pushing myself just a little bit more. And that just helps kids. And this can be both at home and in school.
And we use this a lot with our students, is like if we have 5 more minutes left to do an activity, the timer will go off, but then we prompt them to ask for 1 more minute. So like giving them that advocacy, can I please have 1 more minute? And so then they know and develop that routine, and also know that, you know, the 5 minutes is gonna be over. I can ask for 1 more minute, but when that 1 more minute is over, then I'm really done. So it
delays
just kind
the
of gives them
impending
that,
doom of the fun
exactly.
activity being over.
Yes.
Another thing I wanted to kind of say to you guys is, I know that even in the questionnaires, you guys have tried some things. Some of the things you've probably tried and you're like, Stephanie and Erin, this is crap, I've already tried it, it doesn't work. And that's okay.
Yes.
And I'm not hurt about that. If you're like, this has been tried, it's not working for me, that's fine. Every child is different, and I know we're just gonna talk and walk through this stuff, but I want you to know, I understand some of these things aren't gonna work for your child, and that's okay, and finding solutions, whether it's, and we'll get to it, outside providers, the school, whatever, to figure out the best solution for your kids that have EF challenges. All right, encouraging time management and prioritization. So breaking tasks into segments, we're starting to get repetitive here.
Yeah.
So helping breaking down larger assignments, especially when we get to middle and high school, if they have EF challenges, using those planners, digital tools. At home, again, it says here, using timer for short intervals, encouraging focused work. Again, not overstimulating them, trying to meet them at their sweet spot, so that way it doesn't be, like, I'm sure you've got kids who are like, I hate doing homework, and that's fine, everyone hates homework. But trying to work with them to get them to, oh yeah. I know, I'm sure you probably sit down sometimes, you've got kids that are doing like pre-calculus and you're like, I have no idea how to help you, and the frustration levels just whoop, and then it's fun for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And I say fun with as much sarcasm as possible. But just trying to meet them where they're successful. So if that's 5 minutes, just be like, give me 5 minutes, that's all I'm looking for. And then maybe systematically increasing that over time as they gain that confidence, and it doesn't, and maybe you get a chance to Google how to do pre-calculus. But yeah. And then prioritizing tasks. So knowing your students, especially when they get to those middle school, older high school grades, what assignments are actually more important than others. Like if your math homework's got to take the back burner because you got a history assignment that's due and the weighted grade for that is a lot more, knowing and helping your kid be able to prioritize what's really important. Yes?
That's really hard to do at the middle school, because a lot of the times they might know this is a 40-point whatever, but they don't know out of how many.
Yeah.
Because the teachers like to be able to adjust as needed.
That's
and
true.
so that was something I really struggled with when my kid had 2 things that were competing for time.
Yeah.
They couldn't make good choices because they didn't have that information.
And we'll get to communicating with the teams and with your school and making sure that in terms of my philosophy is I am here to work for you and your families. That is my job in the district, is to help behaviorally, but also in terms of like this EF support with the families that I work with. Like I'm here to work and help you guys, and so the collaboration is key in making sure that all the information is necessary to set up the students for success. That's what we do for school, is trying to make sure that we set up all of the kids in Westwood for success. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So promoting self-regulation, emotional control. Again, this is more kind of like that mindfulness thing piece that I talked about from third grade on. So teaching and modeling deep breath, counting to 10, other ways to deal with going for walks. We have a lot of students, both high school and elementary, that I see that take laps if they need to, if they're getting too overwhelmed or they just need to take a hot second. Yeah. Positive self-talk. This is one I've seen a little bit more with students, is really trying to beef up the self-esteem. You know, I hear a lot of kids be like, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, I just those types of phrases of that negative self-deprecation, and just making sure both school and home we're really beefing up, like, you can do hard things. Not everyone is going to be good at something right off the get-go. You haven't learned it yet, so how can you be good at it if you haven't learned it yet? And you know, one thing I do love though is the flip side of that is like these kids are trying so hard that they want to be so good at things right away, but really teaching them that skill, like you will get there, and not getting too hard on yourself if you can't get it on the first try. And then home, creating calm down spaces. This is more for the younger kids. I wouldn't expect our high school friends to have calm down spaces at home.
Called bed rotting.
Yes, that's what it is. Sleeping till 12 o'clock in the afternoon on the weekends.
Oh, that's my dream.
But then also modeling emotional regulation. So this is a big piece, is I always say to the staff that work with our students, both whether it's teachers or support staff, an escalated adult cannot de-escalate an escalated child.
Yes.
So if your child is escalated and you're starting to get heightened, you ain't getting anywhere, because the temperature's just gonna keep rising.
Tap out. If somebody's better with one of your kids than the other, or can like just emotionally process it a little bit easier, it's okay to tap out and ask for help. And we would tell our staff that all the time too. I still tell my staff that. Hey, call me on the walkie. Like if you're feeling overwhelmed and you need just a break, I'm a fresh set of eyes. I'm a fresh like person that hasn't been in here dealing with some of these difficult situations.
Same thing at home.
Tap out. It's okay. It doesn't make you weak. It actually, I would argue, it makes you stronger to take that break. Even if your kid is losing it in the other room and you need to like walk away for a minute so that you don't lose it, that's okay too.
I would say that's my biggest piece for the self-regulation and the emotional regulation, is if you get escalated while they're escalated, you've lost. And it's going to be very hard to rein them back in, and especially with kids with those EF challenges, is just having the patience and knowing it is frustrating, it's going to be a little bit of a sticky road, but you'll get there. All right. Breaking tasks into manageable chunks. We kind of already talked about frequent breaks, chunking assignments, scheduled breaks, frequent short breaks, or use that workplace structure. I use this a lot with the younger kids, as kind of like 2 works and then a trade-in at school. You get to do 2 works and then you can have 5 minutes to kind of like decompress, especially for the younger kiddos. Same thing can happen at home. Get a few math problems done and then you can take a quick break. Get a few more done on your homework and then take a quick break. If you really feel like your kid's attention span is just out the window, especially because a lot of kids hold it together as much as they can at school, and they fall apart with you guys when they get home. And that, I don't want to say like that's what we want,
But it's
because
good.
I
It
don't
is good.
want you guys to have these exhausted kids coming home and giving you the fight of their lives. But know that like they're trying to hold it together in school, which is what we want them to do later on in life as adults, is put their best foot forward in the world. Thank you, Latifa. And home is where we can decompress and kind of have a
here's their
safe place
safe
to
space.
have those feelings and preserve their dignity. That's a big phrase I use, is like an opportunity to preserve your dignity. Trust me, I get home someday. My car is the perfect example. My car is my safe
I
space.
see Stephanie on the highway.
She does.
all the time.
I immediately asked her, I was like, have you seen
She's like,
anything?
am I like flipping anyone off?
Yes.
Like, no, you're good.
I've learned my lesson on that one. I don't do that anymore. But no, like,
Flipped her around. No,
I did not. I also drive
I
by
made a
Kristen Evans a lot because she's in Hull and we
Yeah.
come the same highway. I've driven next to her on the highway and waved. So, but Latifa told me the other week, she was like, I saw you driving, and I was like, oh my god, I'm not a very good driver. But that's my safe space where I can kind of decompress, and if I had to have those moments of frustration, like that's where I have them. And just teaching your kids to have a spot and a time and place to do it. All right, building social skills and communication. Looking at time, I'm going to kind of move a little quickly. So teaching and modeling positive social interactions. I mean, everyone goes through maturity and grows up and social conflicts. Use your stories from when you were a kid. Like, my mom had 0. She went to a high school with like 14 kids. I don't know. There was a bowling team and like a basketball team, and that's the only sports team she had. So like social conflict didn't exist in her high school. But like, use your life experiences to help your kids with those social conflicts and aspects of, especially 3rd and up. Peer support, assign buddies or peers. We do this in school a lot, especially our younger kids, grouping them up with peers that we think would be good peer models and really help build those social skills and engage. At home, role-playing scenarios. If you got siblings that are fighting all the time, like, just working on being kind humans to each other. Like, you don't get to pick your family, but you get to pick your friends. So just working on those skills of negotiating, resolving conflict, and then again, that positive praise for the social behaviors. Fostering independence and responsibility. This is later as we get older, so encouraging students to check off complete assignments in school, fostering that self-advocacy, asking for help, high school, asking for extra time, asking to meet with teachers to go over any confusion on assignments or any extra help they need. At home, gradual independence, so starting to give small responsibilities, organizing backpacks, we talked about this, making their bed, all that fun stuff. And then if you have to use reward systems if possible, that is if you are kind of getting to a point where motivation is lacking for kids. Sometimes your kids are going to say to you, I don't care, I'm not doing that. And it's just like, oh my god, how am I going to get them to do this, especially when they have these EF challenges, is really finding out what makes your kid tick, what they're really interested in, and using that as leverage to kind of help you out. Collaborating between home and school, big piece here. Again, both for gen ed students, for kids with special ed, IEPs, 504s, just making sure there's regular updates for teachers where they can provide to parents, feedback on children's progress, challenges, strategies that are working, consistent approaches. So working with families to ensure strategies for organization, time management, and self-regulation align at home and school. Knowing your students' teachers' contact information, email. Like, I have parents emailing me all the time, asking me questions, getting ready for parent clinics, they want data on behavior. Like, that is my job. That is our job. So, like, feel free to email and reach out to us to make sure we set your kids up for success. And then at home, collaborative meetings, so regular check-ins with teachers, can help parents understand what strategies are working in school or what information you need, whether that's academic or social. So if you need more information on, like, hey, I don't know what is more important here, this test or this homework assignment, which one should I be prioritizing? My kid doesn't seem to know which one's going to be weighted more. Feel free to just reach out and ask. That's like the weighted stuff, like that's easy for teachers.
That's if you realize in advance.
Oh yes, that too. That's the other tricky thing is middle school and high school kids tend to withhold information from parents to be sometimes sneaky. So I can understand that as well. Or they might
just
not
don't realize.
or they might not realize because of EF challenges.
Yeah.
And then sharing success, communicate with teachers about success at home, vice versa. We will share success stories with you guys. That's what we want. We want your kids to succeed. We want them to do well. We want them to feel good about their progress in school and at home. And then this is The very last one is seeking professional help when needed. So if you're really struggling at home, and I will go through some resources, it might be time to consult with specific people that specialize in this. Schools, you got your school guidance counselor, adjustment counselor, school psychologist. If your student is on an IEP or a 504, that is your IEP team or your 504 team. Cognitive behavioral strategies, so using CPT therapy, that would be with your school psychs to learn skills to manage their emotions and improve EF skills. At home, again, this is where if you are like really in the trenches and you need professional help, there are therapy and coaching services specifically for executive functioning in the area. I went around and did research on places in the area and have the resources to share with you guys of different programs and places that work on after school or is specifically working on your students' assignments and other stuff like that. And then parent training programs. If you feel like you want more information in working with a coach on how to work with your child, that also is an option. And then behavioral strategies, positive reinforcement, self-regulation techniques, mindfulness exercises, breathing, calming strategies. Kind of remember what that video said is we're putting stuff into a navigation system and all of these different aspects come into play to get to your destination. If your kid's mind is going 1,000,000 miles a minute, whether it be from ADHD, anxiety, depression, anything like that, where they have these EF challenges, if their mind's not calm and we can't get them regulated, they're not going to be available to utilize these skills. Positive reinforcement again, and then role playing and social stories. I've made plenty of social stories for kids who might be moving to a different school, if they're going from preschool to kindergarten or 5th grade to middle school. Those transitions can be very overwhelming, and understanding processes, and kind of like Erin said earlier, that preview review is key to help with students that have EF challenges. Being able to be like, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen next. Do you have any questions? Do you want to talk about the potentials for like changes? Like social's big. Like kids will be like, I want to invite someone to a play date, but I'm afraid they're not going to want to come. Working through that stuff is a little challenging, and I guess this is actually a very good point. A lot of kids with EF challenges gravitate towards adults because adults are predictable. Students and children are not. So a lot of children, especially the population I work with in terms of like autism or any of those disabilities, adults are predictable. So you might see a lot of little kids that just love hanging out with the adults and the support staff. It's because they know what they're going to get from adults. They know the responses, they know that they'll play with them, they know that they'll kind of work with them and play games the way they want. Where kids are very unpredictable and it might not always go the way they want, and that's where they have self-regulation issues, attention shifting issues, that collaborative play issue. And so that's why sometimes you see, and that's why building those social skills at a young age is very important, so that way they can be okay with the unpredictability of their peers. So role playing and social stories is a big piece. All right. This stuff is all on those documents I gave you, so the apps are all on there on that last resources page. This is ChoiceWorks, which is a really good one of like setting like, am I going to do this or that, timers or actual routines. And this is more for younger kids. Don't use this with high school, middle school. They'll probably laugh at you and be like, Mom, I'm not doing that. Here are some examples of different token boards I've used in the past with students. I created these, personalized them. As you see, I've got like this Bruins one with like a hockey puck that would move up into the goal, a baseball diamond, and then this packing bag checklist is kind of just like helping outline exactly like what to do, what the expectation is, even with pictures of like, listen, you are literally gonna put a mask in your backpack.
Yes.
This was during COVID times.
Yes.
Put a water bottle in your backpack. Put your lunchbox in your backpack. Zip up your backpack with pictures of exactly each step. Here are some other online resources. First Then boards. Again, more schedules, token boards, choice boards with different skills that you want. So life skills, leisure, daily activities. I can share all of this with you, so I will have my email up at the end, and you guys can just email and be like, hey, I'd really love to get First Then boards, choice boards, whatever, and I will send you guys these resources. I have all of this stuff. Again, this is also on the handout, different books. The Scattered to Focus and Everything Executive Functioning Disorder, those are for adults. The Executive Functioning Workbook for kids is just working on different skills. So whether that be impulse control, self-regulation, self-monitoring, it takes each skill step by step and works on those in isolation. And then different book suggestions. So there's the Ninja book series, which is like 122 books for kids on different things. So like I got mad, or like how to like get ready in the morning, and it just walks through those skills. So if you have younger students who this would be a good opportunity to read these books to them. And another one was called Executive Functioning, so like F-U-N capitalized. And so like it's 10 books that literally go through the 9 to 10 things that we talked about at the very beginning. So like that inhibitory control, the self-monitoring, the self-regulation, planning and organizing. Each book has a different topic. So that's some stuff. There's a very nice Harvard article here that I had read about, and it has some actual academic articles. If anyone here is an academic friend like me and likes to read those weird journals that get published in medical journals, there's a good one. New Frontiers is a great website that had both things parents can do and coaching. That would be more of an online coaching, not in person. So that was a good one. And then Erin had added the podcast.
Oh yeah, I put up Dr. Becky. I don't know if you know Dr. Becky, but she is the absolute best. She is like the parenting guru and teaches just how to be calm in moments when you really mess up as a parent, because, you know, I sure have before.
Was that, what was Dr. Becky, a podcast?
Dr. Becky, she's a podcast. She's been on like all over all the morning shows and everything, and she's on Instagram, and she just has really good advice and strategies to use with what she calls big feeling kids, and she's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And she's real.
These are the professional programs and coaching. So New Frontiers, like I said, Axiom Learning is local, so that's in Wellesley and Natick. Engaging Minds is in Wellesley. These again are just specifically executive functioning programs that coach on that. ADHD and executive functioning coaching with, she's a specific doctor, Kelly M. Jones. She's in the area. She has virtual appointments. And then the Smarts at Home program, that stands for Strategies, Motivation, Awareness, Resilience, Talents, and Success. It's based out of Lexington. And I got some of their lessons off of their website and subscribed. If you would like some of them, and I gave you a handout that was from Smarts, I am more than happy to share those with you, or you can reach out to them. And I think another thing I wanted to point out, I'm going to go back to the resources here for my high school friends with homework and executive functioning there and keeping things organized. Some of these, so like my homework student is a little more user-friendly than the Google Classrooms and can compile all of it into one instead of trying to manage across a bunch. Goal Book Toolkit gets all areas. And then I put some of like the mindful powers, calm for the more emotional regulation. Remind is a good source for connecting home to school. Some of our teachers in elementary use, I don't know, Class Dojo, if you've ever been on Class Dojo with families. I know Erin used to use that for STAR. Sending updates and any little notes. Both home can send something to the teacher, and teachers can send things home. And then MindMeister and spaced repetition or memory. And I think that's a big one, is for kids that have struggles holding on to information and directions and long-term stuff. Really working on that memory stuff. I personally would rather do a tabletop and really working through games and like fun stuff like that, but there are obviously now in the age of technology a lot of apps that handle that stuff. All right, we are at 8:30, but I am more than willing to stay for an extra 10 to 15 minutes so we can do some question answer. These were the questions that were up there. I'm really just going to open form this to the room, so whatever you guys got, go for it. I'm not going to go through 1 through 7. Let's just go for it. Yes?
So for a kid who might have...
If you have to go, that's totally cool.
Do you have a mystery packet?
Yes, I do. You continue to ask your question.
For kids who have PDA tendencies, pathological demand avoidance, what areas do you think that would affect in executive functioning the most?
You know, I think that lots of areas, first off. But I would say that, you know, given the demands, right, like that's what they're avoiding is that demand piece. And often we would work on that piece before we would even start to touch a lot of like the organizational skills and everything too. We would always use, like Steph said, the first then strategies. So we would start with like, if this is something that you really are trying to avoid right in this moment, like we're gonna do this first, then we're gonna do the thing that you want. Immediately give you a break, or immediately give you that reinforcer. And then slowly work up to like, okay, now we're gonna do these 2 tasks that you don't wanna do at all, and we get that. We understand that these are 2 things that are really hard for you that you don't wanna do, you're avoiding doing them, but we have to do it, this is school. And then you're immediately gonna get that reinforcer once that's complete. And sometimes it's hard, because we would, like Stephanie will talk a lot about like an extinction burst, right? So sometimes we're gonna push a kid to the point where they're gonna actually, they might lose it, they might get really super frustrated, but they need to know, and they might avoid more, but they also need to know that that demand is here and it's placed, and
it's almost
really
like it's a
important that they
routine
have
and
to
an
move
expectation.
through it.
It's building those routines, schedules, expectations of knowing, and again, I think it's the unpredictability sometimes
Right.
with kids, especially for the avoidance, is like, I'm gonna avoid this because sometimes one time when I avoided, one situation happened, the next time I avoided,
Right.
this happened, or
Yeah,
I got
I
this
got out
item,
of
or
it
I got
last
this.
time, yeah.
And I think if you stay consistent of like, this is something that's hard for you, we're gonna help and work with you at the start, and then scaffold back the level of support. But if they know every time that the expectation and the outcome are the same, you're gonna get a little more traction and a little more compliance with those things that they've historically avoided in the past. It's more of a trust thing. A lot of the times when I have kids that avoid doing things, it's because of that unknown factor.
Right.
I don't know if I'm gonna have a hard time with this, or I don't know if like I'm gonna be able to get out of it and be able to just go use my computer or my iPad for a half an hour. And if they know every time, like math homework, every time I have to do my math homework, and right after I'm gonna get 10 minutes on my iPad or electronics or something that helps me decompress,
Yeah.
they're gonna be more likely to do it if they know the outcome after it is the same.
Yeah.
It's the unpredictability is where they start to wanna try and control the situation.
We were literally
Unpredictable.
talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
There was a kid that I would almost get hit in the face every single time I was in there. But I would never stop getting right in there. She'd be like, why are you always like right there? And I was like, well, I need this kid to trust that I'm not gonna go away. No matter what, I am here. He needs to know that he has to do the work, and I'm just gonna keep coming back. I'm gonna keep coming in.
stays
So it's consistent and it stays, and slowly but surely, right? Like that stopped. It was less frequent. He did the assignments that I needed him to do. But it is a lot of trust, and it's really hard.
And it's
really
consistency.
hard, and it's consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I noticed a lot of the skills that you were talking about, you're like, oh, this is really important to start practicing this
Yeah.
here and here. And for
Let me caveat, if you haven't, it's okay, don't panic.
No,
Okay.
what I was gonna say is,
Or if it
like a
was.
lot of them you're practicing at school.
Yeah.
And for kids who, during those younger ages, were home during COVID.
Yes.
They didn't get a lot of practice,
Yeah,
and then they went
that's
straight into like middle school or high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I can agree with you, it's a tough situation.
Yeah, because I can see like my youngest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first of all, for my oldest and my youngest, there's so much more SEL in the classroom. It's like dramatic.
Yeah.
It's like night and day. So that stuff really works. But like my older two definitely missed those windows, and so now it seems like really hard to go back
Backtrack.
and try and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what
So,
do you do?
yeah, right. Well, we all have to consider, like, everybody experienced that in their own ways, right? And it affected people.
COVID stunk. It was not
Right.
good in the education field for that to occur.
Right. And it affected every kid differently, and like it was a traumatic response for everybody, whether or not it was acknowledged or if it was felt in a certain way. And certain kids did experience it in a much deeper way and have had a much harder time coming out of it and like finding a new normal, right? Like as parents, we all had to kind of just like bounce out of it and like try to get back into the routine as much as possible, and I'm sure many people were exhausted, right? And so like we're also experiencing this like fatigue of coming back from this unexpected, unknown land of fear, and then we can't touch our friends, we're in masks and we're like in this room that's like sterile and desks, and then all of a sudden we have all these kids that like can't keep their hands off of each other because they didn't learn how to appropriately touch, right, in those moments either, because they were not
6
feet
apart.
6 feet apart, right? And so here we are, and everybody, I will say, when I moved up to the middle school, it was interesting because obviously, like, I've done all of this elementary work and stuff, and so I've started, like, talking and working in a lot of these processes and routines and stuff. Like, I had arrows on the cafeteria floor last year when kids came in. I had arrows. I got in trouble. The custodians were so angry with me. But, you know, literally had them, this is where you walk in, this is where you walk up the line to get into the cafeteria, this is the way that you come out.
And that's that establishing those structures and routines that they missed while they were home during that learning. And I think that
we're catching up.
Your 6th graders were 2nd graders.
Essentially, yes.
Mentally, if they're younger.
Last year, your 6th graders were in 2nd grade and missed a chunk.
And this is, I have other friends that work in other districts, and like, unfortunately, this is the detriment of what COVID has caused for the learning mind of kids that are in public school, and actually school just in general, across the world. You know, my husband's from Ireland. I have plenty of nieces and nephews who are in that elementary, middle school range over in Ireland, and like, the learning deficits are the same over there. It really rocked kids' developments, the action of COVID and what it has done. Do you mind me asking specifically, what skills do you see that you feel like are a little bit behind for your older kids in terms of development for the EF skills?
Like, looking at these things, I'm thinking things like being flexible and like problem solving and like working things out with friends.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, that is very huge because we were all on computers. We were all told to be 6 feet apart. I mean, I'm sure play dates were non-existent because everyone was afraid to go over each other's houses for at least a year and a half, 2 years, in fear that we were going to get sick and get COVID.
Right.
And that's where that skill set occurs, is in those play dates at other people's houses. Sleepovers, birthday parties, those didn't happen. And I totally get it. I hear you that it feels like you have to backtrack, but how can you backtrack when they've already matured and grown up to a certain age?
And also when like some of the peers did make the adjustment or don't like have as much trouble putting themselves out there and taking the chances, and maybe they don't.
I think the biggest thing, kind of that role playing, that social stories, again, especially for that middle school, high school age, utilizing your experience is gonna be what's gonna help them learn those skills at this point because they miss that.
What does it, like, what are the social stories? What does that look like for, like, a high
So
school
social stories is literally, I've written social stories of, like, what it's like to go to the dentist and literally walk a kid through all the steps of, like, going to a dentist or a doctor's appointment to kind of help them out. And there are plenty of resources, and teachers pay teachers. You don't have to be a teacher to access it.
Yeah, a lot of free stuff.
I've gone on there, and there have been programs that people have created with so many social scenarios and the different avenues it can go with the different solutions.
Yeah.
And like, you can walk through those with your kids of like, oh, you didn't get invited to a birthday party, and then kids were talking about you the next day at school because you weren't there and excluding you out. How do you handle those situations? And I've worked on that with some of my high school kids, and like that social problem solving, like, oh, a friend of yours was doing something inappropriate in class, what do you do? Like, do you follow suit and like do the inappropriate thing, or do you tell an adult, blah, blah, blah? And just working all those social like complexities and what are the different solutions and walkthroughs. You alright?
I would even say
It's a lot.
yeah,
It's a
like,
lot.
And you can even like role playing though, like right? Like if you're, let's say there's like a really hard situation that's happening, and somebody, like kids will come to my office and be like, so and so is saying and doing this to me, and I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. Like I'm gonna be this person, you're gonna be you, and you know, say what you want to say to me, and I'm going to give you all of the things back that they could possibly say, and we're going to work through this together and like try to figure out how we can approach this and what we're going to say.
And that's that piece of the unknown, and I think that's where your children might be struggling with the inflexibility and inability to shift and deal with these conflicts and the problem solving. Is because of that unknown, and it's easier just to like control the situation and explode in their own way rather than working through the unknown. And the way you can help that is by that like the social stories and role playing. And don't be afraid to, like, that's what school adjustment counselors or even guidance counselors the school psychologist, myself for anyone that has me on their team, like I sit there and I work on problem solving skills with kids because it is a behavior. It is a behavior to be learned, and so don't be afraid to also utilize the school and helping out
I
with
bring
that.
kids face to face all the time, and watching 2 8th graders have to look at each other in the face and like have a conversation with me just kind of guiding it. It's epic, but it's also they're so uncomfortable, and half the time too, they want to just get it over with so quickly that they're gonna do the work because they're like, please get me out of this office right now. But it's a really good life skill,
It's a learning
and it's like,
opportunity.
and I tell them these are the criteria, right? Like, you're not gonna use unkind language. Your voice is not gonna escalate because I will end it. Like, you're going to talk about the impact this had on you. You're gonna talk about the impact this had on you. And then, you know, we're gonna figure out how to fix this, right? We're gonna solve it. We're gonna fix it. It doesn't mean you have to leave her friends. It doesn't mean you even have to like each other. But like, how are we going to coexist? Because like, this is something that we all have to do every single day as adults, as kids.
Again, I would say as much exposure and repetition as possible, whether that be real life situations or these practice role plays. Again, it's like, I don't know how to change the oil in my car. If no one teaches me, I'm never gonna be able to do it. It's the same with the social problem solving
Yeah, but still you
complex.
say contact repetition, but these are, I mean, when you're starting at middle school and higher, these are children that are wanting to basically replace their tribe, replace people with their tribe.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to gain that independence, they're trying to create that space between you and them, so
Yeah.
you're saying, create the social interactions, like, yeah, but they honestly don't even wanna talk to me right now.
I know. And I think this is maybe where
But-
school can help that,
Yeah.
take that load off of you guys.
Because
Again,
the high school
I,
does, like Tom Millett,
Oh,
and
it's a beautiful
they're
program.
doing
Circles.
exactly what
Yeah.
Aaron
Yeah.
just explained as
Yeah.
well. So
In a
they
smaller
are
format.
right, and they're getting that practice, even if they're not willing to engage with you
Yeah.
as like their parents. They're still getting it from trusted adults that are forcing them
And
to
this-
have that.
so this is a new program that just started last year, and they're really trying to figure out a way to build it out for all of the high school kids and middle school. But like, I have seen videos in this in action of like, they bring both staff and students in and give
Yeah.
opportunities to be vulnerable and share either conflicts they're having or share like struggles they might be having personally, and the adults also do that.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen teachers in these groups cry to demonstrate and show the emotion and that it is okay as adults to have these types of emotional reactions in a safe place and how to handle those appropriately. So the district is working on moving towards that. Yes, do we have a question online?
We do. Someone is asking about their 7th grade child who struggles socially since 5th grade and making friends. It seems to be getting tougher and tougher, and they would like some advice on how to make friends.
Yeah.
Can help their child make friends.
I work with
yes.
like the autistic.
Yes, no, so,
I'll let Erin delve
one,
into this.
like, please reach out to us at the middle school, because we are doing a lot of really great work around that, and, our guidance counselors they offer a lot of kind of like lunch bunches, and if we know that somebody is struggling in particular too, we might find some people that we feel, would really be a fit or a match for your student, and, you know, kind of create a group in which we can try to foster and facilitate some of these relationships for them. The library is like a makerspace area now during lunch and recess time too. So there are, I'm sure, like I could find like a table and kind of group them up with somebody else that I might think would be a good fit. So please use us. We're working really closely with Westwood Youth and Family Services this year too, and they're running different groups in the building to help support anxiety, executive functioning skills, and we really want to help. We don't want any kid to feel like they don't have anybody or any people. So email me. Mrs. Haberman also works with 7th grade, but like, I can definitely work with you and your student in trying to help with some of that.
Again, I'm still good to keep staying, so as long as you guys wanna stay, well, within reason, I do have to be back here at like
I was gonna say
7:45, so. Yes.
What does research show, like, I think we naturally develop these skills for a long period of time. So I think as a parent, when you go through those slides, I'm like, nope, we're not doing any of that.
Yes.
Still,
Yeah.
in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And I'm not cutting an onion, forget it. He's not holding a knife. Like, you know, there's, and I'm just trying to get out of the door without crying some days. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
that's where some of us are at, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And so what is comforting to me as a parent though is like, I think these things like still develop for many, many years.
Oh God,
so
yeah.
like,
I'm 34 and I'm
It's
still
like-
developing some
I
stuff.
just mean,
like,
is there like I don't know, are there big points of maturity that you guys see? And I know it's every person in the world is different,
Yes.
but are there big jumps in self, you know, the ability to self-monitor, the ability to self-reflect?
yes, I think to answer that in 2 points, I'm sure everyone has heard in science, in research, girls mature faster than boys. Boys take a little bit longer to develop, especially with those like frontal lobe, planning, organizing, being accountable. Those skills really don't reach full development until like the age of 25. Again, my husband's 36.
I hang my hat on this statement.
No, that's
so
fine.
often.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And so just in working in the field for 11 years, I've worked with both female students and male students, and I can say I do see that. It takes a little bit longer for males to mature than the female students. And I think the other piece, I had it, and it's also getting late, so don't, just stick with me. I think this is it. The other piece is, I think, especially when kids, high school wise, all the classes they're taking are somewhat mandatory. Like, you're not gonna get to all just take history class or take all just science classes if that's your area of interest. So you're kind of working against some areas of non-preferredness. So that's the tough part, especially middle school, high school, is not everything is preferred to them. And they're gonna fight back on the stuff that they're like, I can't stand doing this. But once they get to college and they're kind of in that situation where like they're picking a major that interests them, their classes are more geared toward things that are important to them, that they're invested in, that's where you see that shift of like taking ownership and responsibility of something that they're passionate about. And you can see that sometimes, like, I mean, I know your son, and I see history is a huge motivator. Like, he is brilliant at history. I would not doubt that he is going to be on some documentary series about some piece of history down the line. I feel like once he finds his passion and he gets a little bit older and that's his focus, that is where you'll start to see some of this snowball and gain traction.
When you're allowed to have a little bit more agency. I have noticed that over the years.
Yes.
I wasn't, you know, like for a child who couldn't even carry a backpack or his library books in 5th grade to a child who, you know, manages so much more than I thought he was ever capable of. I felt that over the years, our children are given more agency over their lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with that agency comes these skills.
Yeah.
Because they care more.
They care more, and it's a sense
And-
of control.
and those
parents
skills
aren't there
are
to
coming.
catch it more. So
They're-
it's like, I have
yeah.
to take control of
Yeah.
this. And that's a big thing, all the way from birth. We're gonna go all the way to birth to 22. Like, control is big for kids. They wanna have some sense of control, whether that be in a good direction or a bad direction, because parents are there to either catch or to give them reminders like, hey, you're not doing that, especially when the middle school and high school years you get to nagging. And it's just, by the time they hit that adult, it's like, I'm finally in control, and now this is all on me. Again, times have changed and kids stay home longer. After college, they might go back. But that sense of ownership when they get to college is where you kind of see a potential for flourish and traction.
And they're choosing to try harder.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yep.
Right. Well, and like, right, like you're gonna go to college, and if you're hungry, you gotta figure out how to eat, right? Like, I went to college, and this is so embarrassing to say, and I did not know how to do laundry because my mom was a crazy person about laundry and wouldn't let us touch it. And I will never forget walking up to like the nicest friend in my dorm and saying, my mom promised she was going to teach me before she left, but I don't know how to do it, and I need you to show me what to do. And it was mortifying, but like,
It's almost
it was
kinda
that
like
or dirty clothes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
You wanted to be there, so you made that happen.
Right.
You figured
Yeah.
it out.
Yes.
Did that answer your question? I
Yeah,
just want to
it-
make sure I'm answering
It did.
questions
It's
too.
just it was a comment and a question. It's an observation I've made from a hot mess of a kid who suddenly is a less of a hot mess.
Yeah.
And every kid is different, but it's been like, what changed? And that makes the agency piece
It does.
really
And you're gonna see it more over the next couple of, like, again, I work with kids that are here till 22, and the growth I see from 9th grade to 22, like, I actually have kids that I've been with for 6 years in this district, and to see them from when they were freshmen to now they're like 20 years old, it's wild to see that leap in growth and traction over those years, so.
Yeah.
I feel like you're sinking for so many years.
Yeah.
Just keep bobbing, you're gonna be okay, cause one day you're gonna come on shore and you're gonna be like, where did the water go?
I was watching something recently too about like the language that we're using, right, with our kids and boredom, right? Like for example, and the language that they use, and I've now since used this with my own kids too, is like, hey mom, I'm bored. Like what are we gonna do? I'm bored. And I was like, I wonder how you're gonna figure that out.
Yeah.
And like literally that's what I've said, and I walk away and they're like, what did she just say? She wasn't gonna like plan something for us. She's, Mom, I'm hungry. Oh, you know where the snack cabinet is? I wonder what you're gonna pick.
Figure it out.
Right? And so, like my kids were dumbfounded a little bit at the beginning, but it was just so powerful because they were like, oh, she's not gonna do anything to help and support me in this moment. And they had to figure it out.
I think
questions.
Yes,
that were
yes.
lingering.
I just had a comment too. I mean, I don't think you have to hold out hope till college, maybe.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
No, you
our son has ADHD, and so this is just a struggle for him. But one thing, we had an ADHD coach for him, and we had come up with all these plans and organizers and things, and he wouldn't do it. And she's like, did you ever ask him? And it was such a simple thing.
Yeah, did he help?
But I was like, this makes sense for me.
Yeah.
And I bought all these things.
Yeah.
And when I involved him
Yes,
in the decision
ownership,
making,
control.
he was like, I would rather do it this way.
Yep.
And I was like, 100%.
Yeah.
So I do feel like what makes sense for your brain
Yep.
is very different from
Yes.
my brain.
Yes.
Thank you. That is a very good piece, is bringing your child into the conversation. Because, like, we can make decisions for the kids all we want, but at the end of the day, it's their lives. It's not our lives. And, like, having like, I had a student at the Sheehan school who sometimes would get so frustrated and anxious, would need to leave the room and would be running around the building. I'm like, why don't we come up with a plan for you to explain to us that you feel overwhelmed? And he was like, I don't want to say it. And I'm like, okay, what would work for you? He's like, can I just pass a card or put it on my desk and then I can just run? I was like, let's go for it. And the minute we put that into play and he had a piece in it, he hasn't had any issues since.
Yeah.
So it's like giving them that control, giving them that ownership, that agency goes a very long way. And again, their brains work differently. Like, I have a support staff that's got dyslexia. She was working with a kid that had dyslexia, and she's like, it's the blind leading the blind. I don't know what to do. And she was like, I know how his brain is thinking. And so, like, that's big for me because, like, I probably go in and try and help him out with this thing, but I don't understand how his brain works. So, like, in a way, it was helpful for her to be with him because she was like, I know what he's feeling. And being able to ask him and him explain it to her and then work together. So that ownership, agency, and collaboration is big, not only between home and school, but also children to adults. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
like,
that's important.
there was a lot of information we had to get out, but I'm really glad you had brought that up to them.
I feel like it's removed the barrier too of like I was forcing him down a path.
Yes, it's fighting. It's trying to put together oil and water.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. So you might as well figure out what's going to work for them. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
I just had a quick question about building self-advocacy skills. I have a third grader who refuses to ask for help in all aspects.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't want to look like he doesn't know.
Yeah.
But how can I get him to know when you crossed a line of I've tried and I don't know, or it's time to ask for help?
Yeah. Wanting.
Instead of struggling for however long.
Yeah.
Whatever the task is.
I think even maybe just red, green, yellow, like a yellow, green, or I'm not even putting these in order anymore. Oh my God, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But kind of outlining like, here, you've tried this for 3 minutes, you're in the green, all right, you're okay. All right, now we're teetering into the yellow, which is like a 5-minute time limit. And like, holy crap, we're at 7 minutes and you've struggled with this. If you're at past 7 minutes, this is where you really need to start asking for help. And also, I think demonstrating both teachers at school, talk to the teachers at school and ask them like, hey, can you like really beef up praise not only for him, but for other students that do self-advocacy and ask for help, so he can see that other kids might be struggling, but they're also asking, and adults are acknowledging that that's okay. Same thing in the home. If you do something and you, like, say you just like fake not knowing how to do something, and you say to your husband like, oh my God, I need help with this. I've been trying for like 7 minutes and I can't figure it out. Just modeling that for your kids to know like, oh, mom and dad can still have hard times with things. It just like, again, consistency and like opportunities to see, practice, try, or like acknowledge and view goes a long way for kids. Like we do it in STAR a lot, is where like we'll pretend like we don't know how to do things to model to them like it is okay to ask for help. And again, it's hard because that's not a bad thing that your kid wants to try so hard and do so well and be perfect. But knowing also like it is okay to that's how we learn. We learn from mistakes.
Yeah. I would always say, oh, you know what I love, and they'd be like,
oh my God, I hated whenever she would do that phrase.
Mistakes, they're my favorite. That's what we learned. And I was like, oh, I love a good mistake.
That would be my piece of advice there.
Yeah.
And not the first time I've heard in the 6 years I've been in the district. It's hard for kids to, you know, own up and say like, oh, I can't do this,
And when
it's
they're
okay.
teenagers, it's hard again.
Yeah.
Because they're like afraid of being embarrassed.
Honestly, simple prompting too, right? Like if you're watching them struggle putting their shoe on, you can literally just say, hey, I'm noticing that this is feeling very, like you feel frustrated. Are you feeling frustrated right now? Ask me for help. If you're frustrated, ask me for help.
Yeah, and
Just
also
say, I need help, Mom.
Tell them what you see, because they can't see themselves. Like facial expressions, oh my God, like the kids with facial expressions,
really
like,
hard time putting your shoes on.
yeah, they might not think that they're showing outward frustration, but kind of letting them know like, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I would suggest to you to help you out in this moment. Like I have a lot of kids where I'm like, this is what your face looks like, and I'll model it and mimic it for them to be like, oh, that's what I look like right now. And it's just like, I would videotape and take pictures all day long if I could, so kids could see what's happening, or tone of voice, or like frustration levels, because I think sometimes they don't realize what's actually being portrayed outwardly by them. So, because we can't see our face, like God, I wouldn't want to videotape my face because I read everything right. Facial expressions just say everything for me. So, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So my question is, like my experience has been that a lot of teachers have like a certain knowledge of executive function difficulties and what they think that looks like. And they don't realize it can include other things like the emotional regulation or the task initiation. Sometimes they don't realize. So, and that can have a really negative impact on the student. What are we doing to help teachers kind of understand that, like, no, this kid isn't lazy, they've got like this issue with task initiation and they haven't figured out a tool yet to help them get over it. Like, how do we at least have them see it from that perspective so that these kids aren't like walking into a class being like, oh, that's a lazy kid.
Yep.
You
No,
know?
I totally agree with you. I think one thing, and I've thought of this as we've been doing this presentation, I think next step as a district, I think I would love to be able to take this to the entire district and do this presentation with all the teachers. I think it's good information to disseminate to everyone and ensure that everyone is on the same page that works with the students of Westwood. So I'll probably be asking if I can do this with the teachers. Whether it be all of the district all together, that'll be really sweaty armpits, or if I can do it school by school.
Well, the big boss was here earlier, so I'm
But
hoping that'll
I would
inspire
really like,
some.
because of the the questions that you guys have been giving, the good feedback that you've been giving to us, I think this, again, that collaboration between home and school. This is the home piece. I've gotten into the home, and now it's really making sure that the school is also on the same page. So I would like that is one way I would like to remedy that and get us on the right track.
Well, I work in a kindergarten classroom, and we have them attend for a lot longer than you put up there. And
it
I'm
is
like,
true. Trust me.
It's not good.
Trust me. The elementary,
We're
the
asking
kindergarten
too much.
classrooms.
That's why they're like this in their chairs.
I gotta give the kids credit though. The kindergarten teachers, you do push a little bit more than the recommended time frame, but the kids do build the skills. So
What are we gonna do?
hey,
Okay,
I gotta be
with
honest
that-
with you, I walk into some kindergarten classrooms sometimes and I'm like, holy cannoli, go kids! You are they crush it. So
Listen,
So
I did like
it's-
half the 6th grade doing the Cotton Eye Joe in the cafeteria. I did it too.
It's
Yes,
9:05.
it is 9:05.
We gotta at least send Erin home, right?
Thank
No,
you.
So-
thank you guys. Everyone at home, thank you for staying on as long as you did. I hope this was. I am actually probably going to send to Asanka a feedback form
Yes,
because there's no
we will
point
do
in
that.
doing something and
Yes.
not getting feedback on how to make this better.
Yes.
I would love for you guys to fill that out. Let me know what you liked.
Yes.
Let me know what you didn't get enough of, or if you have any more questions, or any material that you were like, Stephanie, this was so nonsensical and pointless. Because this is for you guys and for your families and for your kids. Again, this isn't for me. This is my way of trying to help you guys as much as possible and set this kids in Westwood up for success. So whatever feedback I can get from you to make this better and make their lives hopefully better and successful, I want that. So be on the lookout, or as
Thank
like
you
we
so
said at
much.
NAC, Bolo.
And-
Bolo
Yes.
for the feedback form.
I will say, please
Thank
join
you.
the Westwood SEPAC Facebook page and check the website. That's where we post a lot of things.
The recording will be
also- yes, the
posted,
recording
all
will
of the
be posted.
resources will be posted.
Yes.
Westwood Media Center.
Thank you.
No, and thank you for guys for having. Like,
Yes.
I was so nervous no one was going to show up to this, so it's nice that to have a room full of people interested,
Yes.
want to learn and collaborate. Like parents are the parent clinics have always been my favorite part of the job, is being able to consult with you guys and build a relationship to help the kids. So that's what it's about.